Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Zoom In on the Halal Metropolis. Here with us today, we have Nargis Rahman. She is a journalist based in Metro Detroit. Assalamu alaikum, Nargis. How are you?
Walaikum salam. How are you? I'm doing great. Thank you.
Good, good. I know a lot of your work, you cover the Muslim community and the South Asian community, writing about food and culture. And I want to get into some of what you're working on and how you're adjusting amidst the virus. But before we get into that, how are you doing and how's your family doing in all of this?
I'm doing good, alhamdulillah. It's been a lot of adjustments. The kids are home from school for the rest of the year. And I have three kids, so they're pretty busy with their schoolwork. But it's been a really nice time to spend time with them because I feel like we're so busy with our lives that we don't get to spend time like this. So they're definitely enjoying this break, and we're looking forward to Ramadan and being home with them. So inshallah, that'll be a good experience for them.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's been a big adjustment for you in terms of your work. You probably had, a bunch of story ideas and projects
Mhm.
lined up, and so yeah, just how's that affected what you're working on?
So definitely the coverage right now is all focused on COVID. Absolutely, everyone wants to know how are people coping with COVID. I think the unique thing about the Muslim community is that we adapt to trials and tribulations with spirituality. And so I've been trying to focus on how is the Muslim community doing that? How are we taking something that is affecting all of us in a very difficult way, but looking for the silver lining in those moments? I know that a lot of Muslims are saying that while they're afraid of all the changes or anticipating many changes during Ramadan, for example, they're hopeful that this time is a time to reflect and better connect with God, be able to focus on their fasting rather than the hustle and bustle of everyday life. So people are looking forward to that. On the other hand, the Muslim community is going to be impacted by this very social month of Ramadan that usually people are getting together all the time and seeing people they perhaps haven't seen for the rest of the year as much or as often. We will be missing the atmosphere of going to the masjid, and the excitement and the spirit of Ramadan will be missed. However, I do think that we will find ways because as humans do, we're resilient and we'll find ways to connect, and we'll still make sure that we're doing that. Definitely, even personally, people have been reaching out and connecting and making sure we're okay. That is something that, unlike just texting someone to see if you're okay, people are calling and video chatting. That's been a nice, refreshing change. I think I'm a person that likes to connect with people more than just a text message, so I definitely appreciate that, and I try to do the same thing as well. So I do look forward to that. I think the Ramadan will bring out some cool, unique ways of connecting with community. So I'm definitely looking for those kind of stories. Right now I'm working on a few stories actually about Ramadan. A lot of it is just what are some of the changes that our community is going through? How are we going to be adjusting to those changes? How are our families coping with those changes, and what next? What are we doing next? How are our smaller and bigger masjids adapting to these changes? Um, the other thing that I wrote was a list for Oat Hijab, which is a global hijab brand based out of New York, which we usually do Ramadan coverage every year anyways. This year we focused a lot of our coverage on how can people celebrate Ramadan from home. For parents or for young mothers or young professionals, even if they don't have children, they perhaps still are doing a lot at home for women in terms of managing schedules and making sure the household is prepared for Ramadan. So our coverage has always been kind of catered to that for hijab. So, busy young professionals and busy young moms. So this year, a lot of the coverage was focused more on virtual type of learning. However, a lot of us haven't been going out for Ramadan for everything anyways. That's not a huge adjustment per se. If people have younger children, they're not always going to the masjid for tarawih every night. In contrast to when I was a kid, I went to the masjid every single night for tarawih. So it was a huge adjustment for me becoming a parent and learning when to and how to adapt when having children, in terms of age appropriate activities and adjusting to time schedules making sure that they're fully embracing Ramadan without overburdening them. I think that the modern parenting embraces that a lot more than, how we grew up as kids.
Yeah, and so you're part of the Metro Detroit journalism community, and so how do you see journalism being affected, and how are some of your colleagues managing the situation, and yeah.
So a lot of coverage right now is definitely a lot of phone interviews, a lot of Zoom interviews. People are very supportive of one another, even in the journalism community, checking in on each other, making sure that if someone got laid off or doesn't have an assignment, trying to find ways to plug them into different communities. Everyone is creating groups to connect, honestly, and the coverage is just more so being done from home. I was joking the other day on Twitter saying that, hey, we're doing interviews in our cars, in our closets. It's the new norm. I have a theory that I don't apologize for the kids interrupting anyways, but
Yeah.
now it's socially acceptable. So
Yeah.
it's like, that the child is going to interrupt the Zoom call and it's completely okay now. So I kind of like that spin, because I feel like sometimes when you're a parent, you're over apologizing for, everyday, mundane, normal things, because as a society, that's how we function. But COVID has kind of brought about that funny side of things, and it's become the new norm where, you're being creative. I can tell you in radio journalism, even the jokes about like interviewing in the closet, under a blanket. So we're finding
Yeah.
creative ways to go around that. But definitely a lot of Zoom calls, a lot of interactive things online and phone calls. But I do think that journalism is not going to just go away. It's such a important part of our society, especially now, being able to report on how people are coping and healing. I think that a lot of the coverage I see more so is focused on how people are coming together rather than just the death tolls. I think that Metro Detroit is unique in that sense, that we are very focused on how we're helping each other. I do think that's what other people are covering around the world and in the United States, but I think that that's our strong suit, that we are looking for how we can come together. I see journalists coming together, working together. So we've always kind of been a supportive community in that sense, and I think now even more than ever.
No, that's really great. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. Right now we do need all kinds of stories. We need journalism. We need journalists making work right now. And I think so much of the news is focused on the death toll and the amount of people infected and how it's affecting the economy. It's important information. It's important news, but it's also a bit of a drag. It
Yes.
can feel really draining sometimes when at the same time there's all these positive and uplifting stories and fun stories of how people are connecting. I've seen really great things with people coming out into their backyards, socially distancing and holding classes together, having socially distanced parties and things like that, where people are 20-30 feet away from each other. And it's just like, I think really good and healthy for us to feel a sense of normalcy
Right.
in a time where everything is abnormal. Nothing is normal anymore. So everything has changed. So yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. We look forward to what you'll be working on during this time and also during Ramadan. It's going to be a very unique Ramadan this
Right.
year. So please keep us posted and share any new projects that you're working on. Thank you for your work and stay safe out there.
Thank you, you too. Thank you for having me.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.